Hello everyone, myself Sahana studying in Shri Venkateshwara College of Engineering in ISC 6M, and today I am here to present the topic from the full stack development, that is XHTML HTTP request and response. In the introduction, let us know what is XML HTTP request, that is XHR. Its definition says a JavaScript API for creating the HTTP request to interact with servers without reloading the page, and its purpose is enables the dynamic content updates and also enhances your experience by allowing the data exchange asynchronously. In the XML HTTP response is not an official term or object in the web development, that's rather it is likely a misunderstanding or conflation of the concepts related to the XML HTTP request object and HTTP responses. In this evolution of XHR, that is history, introduced by the Microsoft in Internet Explorer 5 as an ActiveX object and also standardized as XML HTTP request in modern browsers. Its significance is fundamental to the AJAX, that is asynchronous JavaScript and XML for creating the interactive web application. XML HTTP request object is used to exchange the data with the server behind the scenes, and also it is possible to update the paths of a web page without reloading the whole page. All modern browsers like IE 7+, Firefox, Chrome, Safari and also the Opera have a built-in XML HTTP request object. XML HTTP request object methods that includes new XML HTTP request, that it creates a new XML HTTP request object. In the above, this method will cancel the current request to exchange the data. Open method that includes URL, async, username and also password like methods. This method specifies the method like URL and also other parameters of a request. In this function call, the method parameter defines the operation that has to be performed on the data like get, post, add, and also some other HTTP methods such as put, delete. The async parameter specifies the asynchronous behavior of the request and also it holds two values such as true and false. In the get or response headers, it will return a set of HTTP headers in the form of a string. In the get response header, it will return the specified HTTP header information. For send, it will send the request to the server for data exchange, and also to get the request, send is used. Send of string. It also thus sends the request of a server for data exchange, but it is used to post the requests. For set request header, it will add the label and also value pair to the header that has to be sent. For creating an XML HTTP request, we use this syntax, that is variable equals to new XML HTTP request. For the older versions of Internet Explorer such as IE5 and IE6 uses an ActiveX object, that is variable equals to new ActiveX object of Microsoft.xml HTTP. For example, where XML HTTP, that if window.xml HTTP request that code for IE7 plus Firefox, Chrome, Opera, Safari, it uses XML HTTP is equal to new XML HTTP request, or else code for IE6, IE5, it uses the XML HTTP is equal to new ActiveX object of Microsoft.xml HTTP. How XHR works. Firstly, creating an XHR object and its example. Secondly, opening a request and also sending the request. At last is handling the responses. XML HTTP request property that includes AJAX on-ready state change property, that it is a special property of XML HTTP request. It will store the function that will process the response from the server. For example, it is a JavaScript code which will create a function that will receive the data sent from the server. In the AJAX request.onReady state change is equal to the function. Nextly, the AJAX ready state property. It is another property of XML HTTP request. It will store the status of server response. It can be processing, downloading, and also in the completed state responses. The ready state changes whenever on ready state change function will execute. For example, JavaScript code is here. The another property is AJAX response text, that to get the response from a server that uses the response text or response XML property of the XML HTTP request object. The response text that get the response data as the string response, and also XML will get the response data as XML data. If the response from the server is not XML, it chooses the response text property. Asynchronous versus synchronous request. In the asynchronous, it is non-blocking and also true in xhr.open, and also browser will remain responsive. In the synchronous, blocking It is false in XHR.open and also deprecated in many modern applications. Here is the example for the XML.http response text. It can be written in the HTML code. For example, that using the XHR to get the data. Here's the example that in this example we can see that the request is sent to the http api.example.com in the data, that the server's response is processed once the request is completed, where the ready state will becomes is equal to the 4, and the status code and also response data are checked to determine the success or the failure. HTTP responses. It includes status codes, that is HTTP responses provide the status codes that indicate the result of the request, such as 200 for success and 404 for not found, and also 500 for the server errors, guiding the client on how to handle the responses. In the headers, response headers convey the important information about the response and also including content type, caching, policies and also cookies, allowing for the precise control over the data handling. In the body content, the response body can also carry the various types of data such as HTML, JSON or binary data, delivering the necessary content back to the client. In the caching, HTTP responses can include the caching instructions to optimize the response loading and also reduce the server load, improving the performance and also the efficiency of web application. In the security, the responses can include the headers that enforce the security measures such as content security policies, that is CSP, or strict transport security that protect the application from various web threats. Here is the methods and properties that we uses in the etc. That in the method open, that we uses for initializes any of the request. In the set sends the request, and also set request header, it will set the HTTP headers. In the properties, ready state is includes that status of the request from 0 to 4. The status, that is HTTP status code, will be displayed, and also the response text or response XML that will responses the data. Ready state and also response codes that includes ready state values such as 0 for unsent, 1 for open, 2 for headers received, 3 for loading, 4 for done, and also some response codes such as 200 is for OK, 404 is not found, 500 that is internal server error. Handling the responses. Firstly, in the response types, that is default, access it via xhr.response text. In the XML, pass it XML, access it via xhr.response XML. In the JSON, pass manually using json.pass of xhr.response text. Error handling, that is check xhr.status and also implement the error handling logic. Here is the practical example that will fetches and logs the post from a public API. Here is the use cases, that is dynamic content loading and also the form submission, real-time data. In the security considerations, same origin policy and also the mitigations. At last is conclusion. XML HTTP request and also the HTTP responses are integral to modern web development that will providing the mechanisms for efficient, interactive and also the dynamic communication between the client and also the server. Together they enable the creation of responsive and robust web applications capable of delivering a seamless user experience. Understanding and effectively utilizing the SHR and also the HTTP responses will allow developers to build these sophisticated web solutions that meet the growing demands of today's web users. Thank you, everyone.